Welcome to this week's episode of the Rangeless Travel Podcast. We're your favorite adventure travel couple. I'm Britt, my partner Ryan, and every Tuesday we share stories and tips to help inspire you to book that next trip. This week we're talking all about how to not unalive your travel companion. Because when you're on the road, it is stressful. You're probably hungry and cold, or you're too hot, and your bus didn't come, or you missed your train or your flight, or you're not that big of much of a partier, but your travel companion only wants to go out and party every single night, so then you're missing all the adventures you want to go to because they're hungover and too tired to do them. Or you're a picky eater, or your partner's a picky eater, and one of you only wants to eat Western food and the other one only wants to eat street food. All of these things can really wear down a relationship and really make your travel experience not as much as it could be. So we're going to share some tips on before you go on how to help that not happen in your travel experience, and some tips on like what to do when you're traveling to make sure that you're still friends or still partners or still dating or still besties at the end of your trip.
So before you go, I think for most people, they like kind of try and pick out a partner before they go traveling. I know it happens when you're out traveling, but that happens. It's a lot more fluid when that happens. When you're planning a trip and you're going with someone, it's your choice of partner is definitely number one priority.
Yeah, who you pick to travel with is really important, because I know like a lot of people are like, oh, you don't know someone until you live with them. You don't know someone until you travel with them. Whether that's your partner,
your
friend, your bestie that you've been friends with forever, until you travel with someone, you learn a lot about traveling.
Yeah, because things go wrong. You're in close proximity. You're with each other all the time. Like, it's a stressful time because like trying to get logistics, or the weather's terrible. You're getting rained on. You're getting soaked. Like, you're carrying all these packs. Like, it's stressful. And like, you might be lost or trying to translate something in a different language.
So picking the right partner is really important. I think the first thing to do when picking a partner is to figure out if they have the same travel style as you. So if you know, like personally, we categorize ourselves as more adventure travelers. Like, we want to hike, we want to go on these like crazy excursions, but not so much the touristy ones. We want to we really enjoyed like a longboating in Borneo. We enjoyed like climbing a volcano in Sumatra, where we literally were the only people there, so we thought we were in the wrong place. We like to do those more off the beaten path, where there's not really any tourists, where we're the only ones that are tourists there. So when we walk in a room, everyone turns around and stares at us, and when people are like, we think they're lost, no one speaks English, we're in the right place. So when we're looking for people that we want to travel with, or we meet someone on the road and we're like, oh, maybe we want to link up and do a trip with them, we're looking for people that like that same kind of thing. The person that only likes, maybe they like an all-inclusive, right? So they like to go to the beach and have a cocktail in their hand and just sit in the lounge on the beach all day.
And go on like organized tours and stuff like that through the
resort.
No, that's not, someone like that isn't probably going to have a lot of fun on a trip that we would do. Or they might have fun, but they're not open to the idea of it.
Yeah, and that is going to leave us feeling frustrated as well, and it's going to leave us feeling like we're missing out on something. So finding your travel partner that has a similar style to travel as you is really important. And I think that it's important about being honest and open with yourself about what you want to travel with, and then making sure the person that you're talking to is also open and honest. Like, if it's someone that you know and like you've gone on like a small little day hike with them and they haven't really enjoyed it, and you know you're going to you're going to Morocco and you want to hike Toubkal. Like, the person that didn't enjoy the little day hike is not going to enjoy...
They're going to hate Toubkal.
Is not going to enjoy summiting on a 2-day hike in Toubkal. Like, they're just... they're just not going to. So being honest about yourself and who you're thinking about traveling with and what you want to do in that specific location that you're going to is going to be the utmost importance to make sure that you guys aren't fighting your entire trip and that you come home friends.
Absolutely. Yeah, no one's looking to like fall out with their bestie when they're off on a 3-month trip.
or their partner.
And it happens a lot. A lot of couples break up, and a lot of people come back and they're not friends after a trip. And It happens. I mean, it's a test. It's definitely a test of a relationship.
And I think one of it comes down to the style of traveling.
Yeah.
Another big one before you go is budget.
Absolutely. It's probably the most important to line up a budget before you go. Like, our budget was like, what, $30 a day?
Between $30 and $50 a day for both of us, depending on where we were.
Right. And like, that is a huge difference in travel. Even if you're like within like $10 more of that, or like a little bit more or less. Some people are like super budget. They're like, no, I have $10 a day for myself and that's it. Or like, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone is different. But you need to be on the same page with the budget with whoever you're traveling with for a long time, because like people that like have a higher budget, they're going to want to do all these things. They're more expensive, these tours, these like excursions and things like that. And you're just not going to be able to do it if you're on a tighter budget.
But it's also vice versa. Like, if you know you want to have these certain experiences and they're more expensive. And like the person you're traveling with, they're like, no, like this is how much I have a day. Like, I don't have the extra money. Then there's always like this disconnect that happens. I have heard horror stories because I used to work in a hostel, right? So I would hear all the stories of people coming through, all the tea, everyone spilt it. It was so much fun. But also like things that like I definitely learned from their stories. Like, I didn't need to go and learn them. And one of the lessons was, a lot of people run into it, especially when they travel with small groups of friends when it comes to budget. So a lot of times before you go, people will be like, oh yeah, I have the money, I have the money, I have the money, right? And then they get there and you'll start doing these different excursions. I think the one that I heard was about hiking Rinjani. Rinjani is in Lombok in Indonesia. It's like a 3-day hike, I think. You could do it in like different speeds, so it depends. But it's expensive. It's at least a couple $100s, and I think it's like close to $400 for this hike now. Because I think we looked into doing it, and we were like, wow, that's expensive. And when I was working at the hostel, I think it was like a $200 hike. So it's like, it's expensive to do, right? Especially on a backpacker's budget. So I remember this girl telling me, it was a group of girls, and they were like, yeah, before we came, we talked to each other about budgets. We talked about all this stuff. And our one friend was like, oh, I have the money, I have the money, I have the money. And they're like, then we got to Thailand. And she was like partying so much harder than the rest of us. Like, she was out every night. She was buying all the buckets. Like, so then by the time, Lombok was at the end, more towards the end of their like 3 or 6 month trip or whatever it was. And she started getting lower on money, and they still wanted to go on these excursions because that's how they planned on doing. They had planned on going on these certain places. And they were
saving up their money during the trip so that they could do it.
So they knew they could do it. Well, push comes to shove, and they start getting to these places, and it started out small. It was like, oh, I can't afford the day snorkeling trip. So they were like, oh, well, we want you to be there, because they do. They're friends. They're like, we want you to be there. It's the equivalent of like $30 US. We'll just spot you the money. Like, we'll give you the money because we want you to be there.
Right.
And then it starts snowballing. So now they were getting ready to do this very expensive hike, because most of these people are really young. They're on a backpacker budget. They go to do this very expensive hike, and she's like, well, I don't have the money to do it. But they didn't have an extra, $200, $300, $400 to pay for their friend to go and do it. And they're like, well, this was always the plan. You said you had the money, like maybe you should have not partied so hard and like saved it for this. And the part of the girls ended up doing, and they ended up leaving her by herself back at the hostel. And I mean, I don't know where they are now. This is probably 3 years ago, but they were not friends.
Afterwards.
Yeah, when they left to go hike Rinjani, this one girl checked out. She left. I don't know where she went. But when they got back, they're like, oh, where's our friend? We'll just call her Emily. Like, where's Emily? And I'm like, oh, she left. And they're like, she wasn't supposed to. And I was like, I don't know, like she didn't extend her stay, like we had rooms, like she said she was leaving. And from those other girls, I found out she left, went back to Thailand, and then flew home. Like she went home.
I was thinking she was
so mad.
She's either going home or she's going somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
Like, forget everyone else. I'm going by myself.
Yeah, and that goes down to budgeting. So it's not only the budgeting of the dollar amount you have to spend a day, but also the daily budgeting. Like, how does someone spend their money?
Right.
Are they very loose with their money, or do they like to drink and party? Because it's gonna, like, if you know you're going traveling with someone that drinks a lot and parties a lot, or they can't really control their partying once they start, and you have some big trips planned on the end, they're not going to have the money.
No, they're not.
They're not going to have it. So if you don't communicate with them before that, like, hey, if you run out of money, like, these are the things I'm going to be doing, like, with or without you, you run into those issues because, and like, I get it from both sides. Like, she felt abandoned. She was like, these are my friends, and they left me here. They abandoned me here. Fair. Her feelings are valid. But at the same time, they're like, you drank your money away. Like, we went back home every night at like midnight, and you stayed out with other people from the hostel until the sun came up.
Yeah.
Because we knew we wanted to save the money. So, like, they weren't wrong to go and have the experience that they wanted anyway. So make sure that not only, you know, you're talking about the overall budget, but definitely talk about, like, how you budget.
Right.
And, like, how your spending habits are.
Yeah.
And, you know, being honest with yourself and them, and being completely open and being like, yeah, I'm going to go anyway. Like, these are the things that I know I'm going to do on this trip, and we're going traveling together, yes, but I feel like you're not going to have the money, you're not going to do it, like that. Like,
I'm still going to go.
I'm going to go. And it's not anything personal. It's just, these are the things that
I wanted to do.
I need to experience for myself.
Yeah. Another thing that you need to, like, communicate beforehand, at least talk about and have an idea for, is pacing of, like, how fast you're traveling. We agreed before we went on our trip that we were going to spend about a month in each country, and sometimes a little bit less depending on the size of the country and other things.
And what we wanted to do in a country kind of determined.
So that's pretty much what we did, and we'd maybe spend, as we were traveling through on the motorbikes, we were spending like a night in a place, a night in a place, a night in a place, 3 nights in a place, 2 nights in another place. Like, it was pretty fast paced because we were on a 30-day visa, because we had a lot of things we wanted to do. But as soon as we were done with that, we slowed way down.
Yeah.
Once we got to the Philippines, we slowed down. We were in Siargao for 2 weeks. We were in like
El Nido for 2 weeks.
We extended in El Nido so many times because we loved it so much. But because the budgeting for your cost of your day-to-day expenses and your budgeting for your time go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And that's very important to talk about before you go. But the thing is, the pacing changes as you travel because people get sick. That slows you way down. People get burnt out. So you're tired of packing your bag every day. So you're just like, let's just stay here for an extra few days so I can recuperate. Other things that like happen is like you just fall in love with a place. You get stuck in certain places. Like El Nido is a place where everyone gets stuck. Siargao is a place where everyone gets stuck.
Pai in Thailand, everyone gets stuck in Pai in Thailand. And then I think it's also important to talk about pace is like the people you're traveling with or your partner, whoever, what kind of traveling are you doing? Are you on a gap year? So you saved up a bunch of money and you're now traveling for a year before you go to school or start a job or whatever, right? Are you doing like World Packers and woofing and different kind of work exchange programs as you're traveling? So is the places you're going to depend on like where you got a work exchange? So like you might be like, okay, we're going to go to Thailand for a month, but we plan on doing like a work exchange for 2 weeks.
Right.
So it depends on that. Are you digital nomads?
Yeah.
Like, are you working while you're moving? And
that could slow way down.
And if so, what kind of working are you doing? Like, are you remote working where you still have like a 9 to 5 kind of setup where you need to be on the computer from Monday through Friday from this time to this time? Are you building out a company where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm building a business right now. So like, the days we aren't moving, I might be on the computer for like 8 hours in the morning and then like go and surf in the afternoon. And then I want to be back on the computer for another 4 before like dinner. Like it really depends on like what kind of trip you're going on and if you're doing, because there's multiple ways to do that, right? There's the work as you go, there's the remote work, there's the work exchange, there's the save up and travel. So that's going to dictate what pace you're going at. So if you know that someone's on a gap year and you're working remotely, but like 9 to 5 kind of situation, you might not have the best partner if like together.
Yeah, that could be a very different pace.
It's
like someone
be a
on the gap year
pace.
might be trying to like get everything done in 1 year.
Yeah, because they know that they have a job. Their job starts in 6 months. So like they're trying to squeeze it all in before like going to the corporate world where you're like, well, I'm working remotely and my job allows me to not be in a specific location as long as I'm on the computer getting my stuff done. So that might not be the best partnership, but it doesn't mean you can't travel for a bit with them. Now, if you're doing something like that and you have different paces, I would just say plan on doing like the meet up and split. So everyone you travel with, you don't have to travel with the whole time. No. Right? So you can meet up with someone and then go separate ways and then meet up again and then go separate ways.
But this is, again, this goes back into choosing the right partner. Some people are not cool with that. They're very, like, rigid in their plans and all that, whereas other people are like, yeah, sure, I'll see you there, and then we'll hang out for a bit, and then we'll see each other somewhere else maybe, or like, you know, you just catch someone on the road. Yeah. Like, but some people are like, no, if we're going, we have to go together and stay together for the whole thing. Like, that's, I mean, if that's what you're into, that's cool, but then you need to find someone who's also like that. Yeah. You can't be like fluid with like, oh, we'll meet up for like a week with you here, and then we're going to go see our other friend here, and oh, we just bumped into this other person, we're going to travel with them for a bit. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't do that if you're too rigid. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes back to like what style of travel that you're doing. So if you're someone who's super go with the flow and you know there's someone else that's like, whatever, I made an entire itinerary for what we're doing for every day at every hour for the next 2 weeks, that might not be the best pairing. Yeah. Now, when you're on the road traveling. Yes. When you're on the road traveling in a couple or with a friend or in a small group, it's important to remember, like, there's going to be arguments. There's going to be fights. There's going to be fallings out. There's going to be, people are going to get grumpy and tired and hungry and things like that. Yeah. Everyone's human. And long-term travel is some of the most stressful situations that you can be in on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. Like, you get so much decision fatigue because so many decisions need to be decided. You have to figure out where you're staying the night, where you're going to eat, like how you're getting there, how you're getting around, how you're getting to the next place. You've got a ticket for a flight in like whatever many days, and you need to get wherever. And you're figuring out visas, and everything's in a different language, and it's just a lot. And you're trying not to get ripped off while you're at it. Yeah, so everything is a lot, and it's all coming at you the same time. So tempers get short. It happens. It happens, and everyone's human. So I think it's kind of that finding that balance between being like, okay, I'm giving people that yourself and the people you're with grace. So realizing I'm human and they're human. We're all doing life for the first time. Mm-hmm. It's our first time at this. So giving everyone enough grace to be like, to feel their feelings and be like, that's valid, to see it from their point of view. But also the balance of being like, okay, now they're just being mean or I'm just being mean. Yeah. I think that's important too. Like, look at yourself. Like, are you just being mean or was it like, I was hungry and tired and stressed. Like, I didn't mean to lash out. It really wasn't you. It was A, B, C, and D. Right. Then the important thing to remember is even if you are traveling as a couple or with a friend or in a small group, you don't have to be together 24/7. It's important to allow time to be alone, to go and do the things you want to do, just to have a break, just to be alone with your thoughts for a while. It's very important. And I think that some people don't need that and some people need it more. We both really enjoy our alone time and own space. And that's something that we learned about each other. We kind of knew it, but when we got on the road, I think it's like when we saw it, because we're always filming and we're always traveling together and we're always doing all these things together all the time, all day long. And it got to a point where like we were fighting a bunch. Yeah. And it would slowly build up over a course of a few days, like, you know, like bickering a little bit more and more and more. And then we both realized, what are we doing this for? We should just go take a day or like go take a morning or an afternoon or whatever and go. Like, it happened a couple of times. I remember Japan in Tokyo. You went and explored one part of the city, and then I went to a completely different part of the city, and we both had a day to ourselves, and we're walking around. And it was just doing what I wanted to do, and you doing what you wanted to do. Yeah, and I was exploring the parts that I wanted to see that I didn't get a chance to. And it was nice. And then by the end of that day, we were both back, like, to being best friends again, and like, you know, we missed each other and it was great. And it just takes that time to reset and get away from it for a second. It's very important, I think. Like, there was another time where like we were in El Nido. We got up late. We had like one day left. We're about to leave on the bus the next morning to go to the airport to leave the island. And we still wanted to climb the mountain overlooking the town of El Nido.
Oh, yeah.
And like we were late into town. We had to drop off the scooter. Like we were delayed so much. So it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. The sun was beating down. I was getting burned already.
Yeah.
We were in the town trying to find this like
entrance.
Way up the mountain. Google Maps was no help. You're trying to find the way up. There were like 3 different streets we could have tried. There's no clear entrance marked anywhere. And
you're not allowed to do it without a guide.
And we didn't have a guide. So we were there looking, we were probably like walking around for a good 45 minutes, and it was really hot, and temper started to fray. We couldn't find it. I remember you got angry at me, and you're like, this is the way, and you started walking off, and I was like, going down that way, and I was like, I'm not going anymore. I've had it. I've had enough, and I lost my temper.
Yeah, he did. He did not say it that nicely.
I did not. And you were like, well, I'm going anyway. You went off going, and then I started walking the other direction. I went back in towards the town, knowing that you weren't going to go and do it by yourself. You were to come back and turn around. Yeah. But you went up the mountain. You went towards the mountain, knowing that I was not going to turn around and come back and follow you.
I'm so confused by this story. I'm not following.
Basically, we both I went off into the town for like 10 minutes to cool down. Then we both met up again afterwards, and it was much better. We decided not to climb the mountain that day. It wasn't worth it. And we just needed a second to stop freaking out. That was it.
Yes. So sometimes you just have to take a beat.
That's it.
That's the point of that story. I wasn't even following, and I was there.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to say.
So sometimes you need a compromise.
Yeah, and compromise is important when you're especially in your group, or with another person. You have to compromise. Sometimes I want to do something that you don't want to do, or you want to do something that I don't want to do. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Or you can agree to, say like you wanted to do something, but it's on the way to something that I wanted to do. We could compromise, and we can both do both things, and just like...
It's just everyday life.
Yeah,
it's just everyday life.
Not everything's going to go your way. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And then when you're on the road and you're traveling with people, you start to pick up, or I think it's important to stay keen to realizing what some people's strengths are and like where their weaknesses are and where your own strengths and weaknesses are, and starting to play into them.
Right. Like when we're traveling, you're particularly good at like finding our way around and like figuring out the signs in another language somehow. You just have this sixth sense about it.
I do.
And then like when we're at the airport, I'm really good at having a bus ticket or the airplane ticket or the itineraries and all of the stuff in my phone. I know where it is. I can find it immediately.
Yeah, if it needs to be held or downloaded, I'm gonna probably
lose it.
I've never lost it, knock on wood. But I definitely don't know where it is, and then when I get to the ticket counter of whatever we're at, I panic, and then I find it, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, the people behind me are waiting so long, because they're waiting forever because I can't find this thing, right? Where Ryan's really organized with things like that, so they're right where they are. But then when we were in Japan, he got us lost at every train. He put us on the wrong trains. He would not listen to me. When I was like, no, it's this way, he'd be like, no, it's not. That's the wrong train. You're bad at directions. And I'm like, sir, I'm good at directions. I'm good at directions.
I can't find my way around Japan.
But it's just taking that moment to see those strengths in the other person and then being able to play into
recognize, them. Yeah, and like play to your strengths, you know? If someone's good at something, let them do it. If you're good at something, you do it.
And then with that, it's you guys are a team.
Yeah.
So when you play into each other's strengths, it just helps to build the team.
And like as part, like to build on that, as part of a team, it's your job to make the other person's life easier. Like just like even with like simple things like loading up double backpacks, it's hard. You can lose your balance. It's heavy. It's hard to get them on. Like, so help each other get them on. Help each other like hold the bag for the next person so they can get it on.
Yeah,
and
but
like
even
that.
things like splitting the load. So if you have a travel companion, one of the good things is like you don't have to bring 2 shampoos. You don't have to bring like, you know, some things you can only bring one of. You don't have to like. So if you know that you're traveling with someone, like talk to them before you go even. And be like, okay, what toiletries are you bringing? They're like, oh, I'm bringing body lotion, shampoo, da-da-da. And you're like, okay, cool. I'll make sure I bring like a bunch of sun cream because it's going to be really expensive because we're going to Southeast Asia and all the sun cream is like $50 for a bottle. So you bring the lotion and shampoo. I'm going to bring like 8 bottles of sun cream. You know, so then you can split up that load and it just help each other out because you're a team. Yeah. And that's what teams do.
That's it. And another important thing is, as part of a team and as part of a group of people, when you're traveling for long periods of time together, it's important to be able to laugh at yourself. It's important to be able to laugh at the situation that you're in. It could be a terrible day. It could be nothing going to plan. But just to be able to see the lighter side of it, it alleviates a lot of the tension that builds up in those situations.
And sometimes it can be hard to do. Sometimes it's hard to see the lighter side of it and laugh at yourself because it's really frustrating.
And sometimes the other person doesn't want to laugh either. If you start laughing at this terrible situation that you're in, the other person starts losing their temper because you're it's not funny. Why are you laughing? And I was I'm laughing because if I don't laugh, I'm going to cry. So it's funny. And it's going to be a good story afterwards.
Yeah, just do it for the plot. Just do it for the plot. I do everything for the plot because things aren't going to go to plan. The train is never going to come or the buses are never going to come. You're traveling to the Philippines, you're going to be waiting for a bus for 2 hours that doesn't have any plan on ever showing up. It's something that's going to happen. And it's okay. You just need to be able to go with the flow, shake it off. It's going to be fine. It's a bus not coming. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. But that's one of the reasons why you don't want to plan too rigidly, because if you have too many rigid plans, then when something like that goes awry, that's why you feel so stressed. But you're I have another bus ticket or I have a plane ticket or I have this, that, and this and the other thing all booked and planned. You're stressed out because money.
Yeah.
So if you don't plan too far ahead and then the bus doesn't show up, it's okay because you're not losing any money because you didn't plan what's next.
Yeah. But I think the most important thing, in terms of when you're long-term traveling with someone else, the most important thing is communication.
Absolutely. Nothing that we talked about in the last 40 minutes is going to work in the slightest if you and whoever you're traveling with or whatever people you're traveling with are not just communicating painfully communicating all the time.
Yeah,
so much.
How are you feeling? How you're emotionally feeling, mentally, physically feeling, everything.
What your needs are, what your wants are, what your bucket list is, what you thought you wanted but now don't want anymore. There's so many.
Yeah, how you feel about a place. If you're feeling a little bit sketched out about something, or if something is not living up to what you were expecting and it's kind of disappointing, or even if you're feeling homesick or worn out and you've got
even
burnout,
little things. We eat pretty much exclusively local food.
Right.
When we go places. But sometimes it's you just you kind of just want a French fry. Or I know sometimes you just want a burger. You're I just want a burger. But even those little things, being able to communicate what you need to eat or that you need to eat is the utmost important. You know what that makes me think of? I don't know if other people do this, but if I'm hiking and there's people around me and I get super self-conscious because I'm breathing too loud. Other people feel that way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be super self-conscious that I'm breathing too loud. So then I try to not breathe loud and I try to breathe very quietly. But now that I'm breathing quietly, it's fine for a little bit. But
then you gas yourself
yeah,
off.
in 2 minutes, I'm now worse off because I wasn't breathing, and I'm oh my gosh, I'm lightheaded. I'm gonna pass out and fall down this mountain because I was self-conscious because I was breathing. Come on, I'm a human. Everyone breathes, and I feel that's really symbolic of what it's like traveling with someone and traveling in a group and communicating your needs. All I would have needed to do was, first of all, not be weird and just breathe. Second of all, if I was really struggling, to just communicate my physical needs. Hey guys, can we go a step slower? Can we slow down for just a little bit? Or hey guys, in a few minutes, is anyone else cool with taking a break? Because guess what? There's probably someone else in that group who would also want a break. There's someone else in that group that would love to go a step slower. And if the people you're saying that to, they're no, just go faster. What are you, a wimp? Then don't hike with them anymore because they're mean. Like, they're mean. Like, don't go with them anymore.
It's not ideal. Yeah, any group, it's always the slowest person that sets the pace in anything. Whether it's hiking or like moving around a city or like driving motorbikes, it's the slowest person that sets the pace.
But it's just symbolic of being able to communicate your needs.
Right.
You know, because like that's like just like my need to breathe. Right? My need to breathe was embarrassing because I'm a human and like it was too loud. Like that's very symbolic of like communicating your needs to others, whether it's your need to eat, like your need to be like, guys, we need to find a toilet. It's your need for rest. Like, guys, we're moving really fast. This pace is really fast. We've been spending one day in every place. I've been feeling a little burnt out. You know, I need to slow down. Your need for alone time. It's communicating, making sure that all your needs are met. And that's why sometimes in a group, specifically like a larger group, it's harder because there's so many people who also need their needs, need their needs to be met. But it's communicating those things and being able to work together on the same team and compromise in a good way and communicating, you know, what the needs are. How do we get them? Like, how does everyone get what they need and what they want and have this amazing experience together?
And you really have to do it to almost a painful degree. You have to assume the other person knows absolutely nothing about what's going on in your head, because that is true. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain amount that you can read into another person when you're traveling with them. You get to know their quirks, but it doesn't hurt to tell other people exactly how you're feeling and your plans for the future and all of that stuff, and how you've been like affected by what you're doing and all of that. It's very important to like be crystal clear with the other person. Assume they know absolutely nothing.
I think it's good advice.
Yeah.
And whether you are a solo traveler and you're traveling with people that you just met at a hostel, or you're traveling with your bestie or your significant other, or just, you know, a friend that you both are going to the same place but you're from the same, you know, like hometown or whatever, I think that it's game-changing to, at the end, still maintain a friendship, because now you guys have those shared experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And you have those memories together. Because when you're solo traveling, which I've done a lot of, I'm a huge proponent for solo traveling. I think everyone should, to their own degree of comfortability. And you do things all by yourself, there's no one to share those memories with. So a lot of people come home from their trips and then they're not friends with the person that they went traveling with, because it's stressful and all those things we talk about come up and they didn't communicate effectively. And now there's no one to talk about all those memories with, so they just sit in your own memory bank, which is beautiful and amazing, and you grow and you learn from it. But there's something equally as special as being able to share those moments and be able to look back on them and being able to, you know, text your friend or send your friend a memory and be like, hey, remember that time that we were? Or, hey, remember when we met in that hostel like 5 years ago? That was incredible, thinking about you, like I'm cheering in your corner. There are so many people that I have made friends with over my last 10 years of traveling that I still keep in touch with, that I am cheering in their corner every day, that I reach out to on a regular basis and communicate with. And really being able to share those brief moments of our paths crossing in amazing places in the world and have those shared memories, I think are so special.
Yeah.
So it's so important that you're able to communicate and travel with the right people so that you can have that at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And it really does. It's either going to make or break a relationship, long-term travel together.
I think it will.
It really will. And depending on if you, like, it's all down to communication at the end of the day. It's all down to communication.
It's all down. So learn how to talk about your feelings. Learn how to talk about your feelings.
You gotta get real comfortable with being, like, super intimate with other people emotionally and sometimes not even emotionally. Sometimes, like, physically, someone is going to be stuck on the toilet 3 feet from your bed having a bad day, and you're going to be there for all of it. And you got to be ready for that.
All right, let's just wrap it there. That is it for this week's episode of the Rangeless Travel Podcast. If you want more from me, Britt, and from Ryan, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, and YouTube at Ranges_. Until next week.
Bye.
Bye.